Friday get together here on Birds 365. Jody McDonald with my co-host today being Jeff Kerr. He's filling in for John McMullen. Oh, well, what do you know? There he is. John McMullen, usual co-host, Eagles beat guy, heading off to camp in just a mere matter of moments. Was there. We're going to try and get him back up and make sure that he is with us. J-Mac, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's difficult. I forgot to turn off my Wi-Fi, and I'm in the car, and it picks up weird Wi-Fi signals, which is worse than the phone when you're in the car. So you never know what's going on.
Hold on. Let me get this right. You got a flat tire. You can't get that fixed, but your Wi-Fi is working fine in your car.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is working fine. It's just not that good. Car Wi-Fi, as I
like in the Wawa parking lot.
Yeah, I'm in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, but close.
Oh, even better.
Close. Yeah. And by the way, if you're trying to buy Fix-A-Flat anywhere in the tri-state area, you can't do it. Pandemic-related shortage.
Oh, not good to hear. All right, but we're glad to hear you're on the road and you're at least attempting to get to Eagle practice. You've been there the last 2 days. From afar, it seems to me like the Eagles have been pretty helpful, pretty open-ended at getting you guys the ability to be able to talk to the players. You've been doing this for years, comping this year to previous years. Am I right in what I'm saying? Hey, the Eagles are allowing you guys or attempting to let you guys get as much access as you can, even in this still covered by pandemic times.
Yeah, they are. I don't want to say they didn't in the past. I think last year was really difficult for a number of reasons because the protocols were so steep that even the PR department was shorthanded. In other words, there was, half of them couldn't even go in the building. So they were just like us because there were only a strict number of people in the building. So it was basically two people trying to wrangle up players as they would come off the field and get them on Zoom. So it was really difficult. So I don't want to criticize them for that. But Bob Lang is back this year. For anybody who's been around Philadelphia for a long time, he used to be here, and he went to San Francisco for a lot of years. And he came back, and he's in charge of the whole department, and he's very good at his job. So, let's give Bob a shout out.
Yeah, I got to give Bob a shout out too. He gets right back to you whenever you email him or try to reach out to him. I got to give him credit for that too. John, one thing I wanted to ask, Lane Johnson pretty much kind of described how the COVID situation was last year, eating lunch in his car. He seems really happy to be able to actually see people and talk to you guys.
Yeah, Jason Kelsey says the same thing. That's part of the reason you play this game, especially when you get up to be, plus 30 and it takes a toll on your body. And one of the things they always talk about is the camaraderie in the locker room, cafeteria, things like that, just hanging out with the guys. And they weren't able to do that last year. We always joked that it was a perfect situation for Nnamdi Asomugha. If he would have came in last year, he could have eaten his car. Nobody would have thought anything of it. Would have been perfectly fine. Everybody else wants some human contact, with the notable exception of a couple players that I shall remain nameless for obvious reasons, because they're not allowed to eat in the cafeteria.
Understood. See where you go with that. All right, John, I don't know how much info you got on the guys. I know you were told yesterday they're going to be new Eagles, but they signed two guys off the street, wide receiver Andre Patton and safety Obi Melifonwu, who I'll be honest, I was a pretty big fan of his a couple of years ago when he came out in the draft. I thought he was a first-round talent that fell down to the second round, but he's been in the league several years now with a couple of teams, and he's just never reached the level of the potential that I thought he had. The Eagles grabbed him because they need some extra numbers. Either one of these guys, in your opinion, have a slight chance, a minimal chance? I would guess that either one has a great chance to make the Eagles, but what do you think about the two signings yesterday?
Well, the receiver, I mean, they just needed a body. They have a lot of issues at receiver. Travis Fulgham wasn't able to practice yesterday. Quez Watkins still not able to practice. We'll see when I get there today. Greg Ward and Jalen Rager, which you probably read about Jalen Rager from Jeff McMullen. They've been doing individual work, but they're not working in team drills. So, I mean, they don't have any bodies to throw out there a wide receiver right now. So that signing made sense. Obi was here in rookie camp. He was here as a tryout player. So the Eagles obviously got their due diligence. And you weren't the only one who liked him in the draft, Jody. I mean, he was a second-round pick. He's a really big, physical, athletic guy. So you always give people like that a chance if the light sort of turns on for them. And the Eagles obviously need help at safety. Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace have been rotating next to Anthony Harris these first couple days, and I just wouldn't be comfortable with that. So I don't know, if he would be the answer. Obviously, there's a reason you're on the street. It's almost August. They just have an issue at that position, and probably the answer is on the far field every day, and that's Rodney McLeod, who's continuing to rehab. And his goal is week 1, so it's not about training camp for him. He tore his ACL in December, so they're hopeful that he can be back by week 1, and we'll see. That's kind of a tight window if you think about an ACL from December.
Yeah, John, I kind of wanted to mention Obi Malafalo too. We were talking earlier about who's going to be that guy that John Gannon would use, say, if he rushes 5 or 6 guys. It seems like if Malafalo would be able to make this roster, he could theoretically be like that extra blitzing safety or linebacker or wherever they would like to put him because of his frame. I mean, do you feel that's a way he could possibly crack the 53?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would be his role. I mean, John's got a lot of options when it comes to what you're saying, Jeff. And I mean, they really like Milton Williams. So I think people, they think he can play defensive end. In fact, they compared him to Brandon Graham. They think he's that type of player with the versatility to play both outside and inside. They obviously have Ryan Kerrigan now. Jonathan Gannon already said he considers both Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett starters. Teron Jackson has flashed a little bit as a young player. They have a lot of potential pass rushers. But as far as that role that people assume is going to be there, I don't know. I would say Kerrigan is most likely to play it because he's been a stand-up rusher in the past. In practice, they've sort of looked at Patrick Johnson and Joe Osman and Jannard Avery. I don't think that's going to work, to be honest. But if there is sort of an Anthony Barr-like role, I just don't think they have that type of player right now. And the closest as a pass rusher would be Kerrigan. I don't think he can handle the other aspects of the role. So that might be one of the things where you got to wait. Maybe the most likely would be Davion Taylor because of his speed and his athleticism.
Johnny Mac, I need some clarification here, and I'm sure you're going to give it to me. Dallas Goedert and Jalen Rager failed their conditioning test. I knew the Eagles had a conditioning test, and it kind of varied from guy to guy and position to position. How do you go about failing one's conditioning test with the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, well, everybody's different, and they never let us watch. Back in the old days, they used to let us watch the conditioning test, and we could tell you exactly what happened. Those days are long gone. Nick Sirianni is obviously a new coach, so he does things differently than Doug Peterson. With Dallas's case, that really surprised me because I mean, you could just see the guy on Zoom. Forget about live. Before we even got here, you could see he was in the best shape of his life. You could see he had lost weight. You could see he was taking this very, very seriously as far as his opportunity to be the number one tight end. And I'm like, wow, I did not expect that. But then it turns out he just stumbled on a particular drill and went the wrong way, sort of used the wrong technique, and he didn't finish it in time. So I don't think that was a big deal at all. He just made a mistake. Rager's a bigger deal because he's dealing with some personal stuff. And, you know, we reported, Ed and I reported at Sports Illustrated, he failed. He was fined twice last year for failing to be under his weight clause. And I think if you look at Jalen Reagor on film from college and what the Eagles told us, he was a really explosive player, and that's what they were expecting. And he didn't look like an explosive player when he got here. Maybe that was the reason. But yeah, it's a little bit more concerning with Jalen Reagor. I wouldn't be concerned at all about Dallas Goedert because it was just a mistake. He took a sort of a false step on a drill. And when you do that in the NFL, you take a false step. That's it. It's over. You're done. You're not gonna finish.
John, one person I thought has, from at least what I've been reading, has had a good first 2 days is Nate Herbig. And this is kind of a big camp for him and Isaac Seumalo, just based on, I don't think left guard is set in stone yet.
Yeah, I think it's set in stone, barring injury. I mean, Jeff Stoutland really, really likes Isaac Seumalo. I mean, he likes Isaac Seumalo more than Isaac Seumalo probably likes himself. I mean, he thinks he's one of the most underrated players in football. And yeah, he's rock solid at left guard. Everybody's rock solid on the offensive line except left tackle. But long term, obviously, they drafted Landon Dickerson for a reason. And I think people say, well, if Landon gets healthy, can he beat out Isaac? He's not here to beat out Isaac. He's here to take over for Jason Kelce or Brandon Brooks. The assumption is one of them at least isn't going to be here next year, and that's where Landon will slot in. But I will say, you know, they used to say that about Jason Peters every year, and he'd come back, and he'd come back, and he'd come back, and he'd come back. You know, Jason and Kelce and Brandon are so good that if you can work out things from a contract status and they keep playing well, that could be pushed off even further. But yeah, I don't think people realize how much this team likes Isaac Seumalo. And I don't think he's even in danger of potentially losing his job, except for injury. But we say that about everybody.
J-Mac, don't know if you saw, I'm sure you did, your friend and ours, Jimmy Kempski, putting forth the theory, you know, Zach Ertz is here, Zach Ertz is performing, Zach Ertz is getting a lot of reps. Maybe Zach Ertz has a bigger role with the Eagles than we thought this year, including being the starter if Dallas Goedert were to be included in a Deshaun Watson trade, if that comes to fruition. That'd be a player that the Texan could surely use. Did Zach Ertz just go from no friggin' way he's going to be here to the starting tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, you know, maybe he should be. But I think, you know, we were all a little surprised, and then we found out, he failed his conditioning drill. So that's why the slow start as far as reps for Dallas. I think you'll see it change in the coming days. But the second thing is, the bigger thing is, you know, and we've talked about this a lot, Jody. If Zach is here, both of them should be playing because they're both better than the receivers they have. You know, after Devonta Smith. And I used to say after Devonta Smith and Jalen Reagor, no, it's just Devonta Smith. They're really bad at receiver again. And now they're injured on top of it. The best receiver here has been Michael Walker. You say, who? who's just, a late signing. Dave Caldwell had him in Jacksonville. He came here to the Eagles. He's really quick. And we'll see. I mean, you could project him as sort of a slot receiver type if he learns the route running part of it, and we'll see if he knocks that down. But as far as explosiveness and quickness, like, he stands out on this team, and that makes me worried because, Michael Walker's a nice story, but look around this division and look at the receivers. And we always talk about what can Jalen Hurts do? Well, if Zach Ertz is going to be here, and Howie Roseman, said he was going to be here week 1, I still think he's playing a game of chicken. But let's say he's telling the truth and say he's going to be here week 1. Well, he better be on the field. And Dallas isn't coming off. One of the receivers is coming off.
John, I saw a report from Mike Garafolo yesterday, and of course, this just was a happy accident. I was reading into Carson Wentz's first day in Indianapolis, and Garafolo drops this nugget that, Zach Ertz with the beach blonde hair, and he was wearing his shorts inside out. I mean, you were there. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have noticed it, but that was like a sign, or, he dropped a little thing that where Ertz was hoping to go to Indianapolis and re-team up with Wentz, and he still kind of wants that. Have you heard anything about this?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of trade rumors dating back to last season at the trade deadline. In fact, Zach would probably not be here if he didn't get injured, and the Eagles couldn't move him at the trade deadline because he was on short-term IR at the time. Baltimore, the Chargers offered a 5th-round pick. Baltimore was interested. Green Bay was interested. Now in the offseason, you had Buffalo, and everybody speculates with Indianapolis. Yeah, I mean, those guys love Frank Reich. So, I mean, it pretty much ends there. They'd love to play for Frank. Carson's obviously there and gets to. I mean, Zach doesn't want to be here. But he's going to be a professional. And I think the Eagles are using that as leverage because they know he's not going to create issues. And they know if they can't get what they want, he'll just play out his contract and be a professional and go about his work. And they're using that to their advantage. And from a business standpoint, it makes perfect sense. From a human standpoint, you can argue he's meant so much to this organization. He's done so much for this organization and the community, by the way. You should maybe pay a little bit of deference. But, way back when I asked Howie, I asked him about the relationship. He said, sometimes you have to play the bad cop. I think he's been playing the bad cop, and it's why they call it a business. And it sucks sometimes for the players.
Right, but you can still make it work. Even if you're not happy about it, you can still go out and perform, and give Zach Ertz that much credit that he's come in and seems like he's ready to get it done on the field. Maybe not how he feels, but as long as he is playing at his top level that he can, that's the goal the Eagles have at this time. All right, no, you had a chance to listen to the new defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, yesterday. Second time you guys really had the chance to exchange ideas with the coach. Anything jump out that he said that you were surprised by? We're all kind of still learning what Jonathan Gannon is all about and how he plans to deploy his players this year. But was there something yesterday that he said that kind of grabbed you and said, all right, I didn't know that. I need to keep an eye on that. If that's going to be one of the key things, okay, now we know that much more about Jonathan Gannon.
Well, I think he is open-minded, especially when it comes to the back end of the defense. He's looking at everybody. I mean, I think we were all surprised. Remember, Alex has not been able to practice yet, Alex Singleton. So Davion Taylor got first team reps, and on day one, and we were all surprised by that. Even though I've kind of advocated throw him into the deep end of the pool and see what he can do, because he's so much more physically gifted than any other linebacker they have. But TJ Edwards was getting first team reps. Sean Bradley was getting first team reps. So he's going to look at everybody. He's going to look at Marcus Epps, as I said, and Kayvon Wallace. I think the corners are set. Steve Nelson had to tap out. Craig James got some first team reps because,
Oh, did we lose Johnny Mac? Yeah. Maybe he flipped his Wi-Fi back on. Did he move the car? Did he spill his Dunkin' Donuts?
He mentioned Craig James.
We'll have to stay here to find out. All right, why don't we take a quickie time? We'll come back and see if we can reestablish. I'd love to spend a couple more minutes with John McMullen here with us on Birds 365.
Today's show on the JAKIB Media channel. Listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.